Okay, so thank you guys for coming over. I got asked by Kathy to give this, and I hope it does some good. I tried to go through and pull some literature and stuff to give you guys some decent information, but I think it's always important to know who you're listening to. And I did, somebody asked if I had played pickleball before. Yes, I have. I'd love to play more. With 4 kids at home, it makes it infinitely complicated in running a business. I'm super fortunate to be busy. But my name is Dan Quillen. I do run Catalyst Therapy, and that is 1 block south of GB Tire inside the field house. If you've never been there, really a nice building. People always ask why Catalyst, and when I was in grad school, I had a professor pull me out of class, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to send you somewhere." And I said, "Okay," and he said, "Don't screw it up." So he sent me up to Hudson, Wisconsin to be trained by this gentleman, J.W. Matheson. And during his time there, I spent 10 weeks there, and he did a nice job of training me up. And I always looked at what these guys had accomplished and all their letters and the things they'd done and who they'd been trained by and what that looked like. So I tried to model myself a little bit after that. This was the gentleman that sent me up there, Rob Mansky. He's the program director at Wichita State, or was. You can kind of see a theme there with the same set of letters. He's got more. And his mentor, who I've also been trained by, George Davies. George is standing next to his mentor in the photo there. So I always give him a hard time. He's 83, 84, still getting after it. He does a great job. He's definitely one of the pioneers in our field. Super glad to have him. People always get a kick out of this. I got my athletic training degree and bachelor's at Emporia State. Yes, that guy there. I always show the last photo because people see that one and they go, "Well, did you win?" Well, I didn't get last, so that's always enough. Got my doctorate at Wichita State, so I'm a shocker. I can claim independence there. Everybody asks KU or K-State. Nobody ever gets mad at this guy. And then after that, I graduated and got a certification as a strength and conditioning coach. And basically what that is, you have to have a bachelor's degree in some sort of science or athletic training field. And then there's like this 400 or 500 page textbook that covers exercise prescription, stretching, proper lifting technique, a little bit of biology associated with strength and conditioning, training cycles, exercise regimens. You'd think you would get in PT school, but all these guys told me I should go and get that. You can start to see a theme there. And they said, if you want to be good at your job, go get that. So I read the book twice because I freaked out I wouldn't pass it. Test went great, no big deal. But it did have a lot of extra stuff that you would have thought you heard and picked up in school, so it kind of helps you to be a sense in a glorified personal trainer. And you can't even sit for that without a bachelor's degree. And then you pay the fee exam. So it's just a certification. I renew it every 3 years and just helps keep me honest about exercise prescription, as silly as that sounds. Then after all of that, I decided I wanted to get board certified in orthopedics, just like those other guys had been. They said, if you want to be good at your job, you need to be board certified in orthopedics. There's 93 or 4 in the state of Kansas last I checked. That basically covers the last 10 years of literature of publications on how to manage orthopedic conditions. So you get that nice hybrid of an athletic trainer, a certified strength and conditioning specialist, a PT, and board certification orthopedic. So at least when I give you something, I'm trying to do the best I can to give you a decent insight onto it. And when they take the last 10 years of literature, they pile it into an exam. Costs you about $1,500 by the time you get there. You have to submit an application, you get accepted, and then you hope you pass that thing. That took me 8 hours. It was definitely harder than my PT licensure exam. I was super fortunate to pass that. Just a couple photos of my clinic. People always ask what that looks like. Nice space, super blessed to have it. Julie takes good care of it. She takes great care of me. It's always fun to show the logo. And I thought I had the other clinic there, which I must have taken it off. The logo on the outside of the building, actually, that logo came off of my mentor's clinic in Hudson, Wisconsin. They sold theirs out to Twin City Orthopedics. He should have retired, but he's still working. And anyhow, so I was able to go up there and buy a super cheap sign for $500. So Catalyst Therapy is my way to tribute to those who trained me, and I got a super cheap sign. So it's a nice light up sign outside the building there, so it illuminates, and it's cool to go to work every day and kind of feel that tribute to those who got me to where I'm at. Because I definitely couldn't do it without them. I still call them on a weekly basis asking for help. More photos of the inside of the field house if you've never seen it. Okay, so point of why we're here, pickleball. I wanted to find some fun facts on it. I don't know if you guys have ever looked any of this up, where it all began or how it got started. Anybody look that up? Okay, all right. So allegedly back in 1965, these 3 gentlemen, I guess they said 2020 marks the 55th anniversary. These 3 guys were with their children, and they were bored at summertime, and they encouraged them back then to entertain themselves. Nowadays, they just say, go get on your phone or go outside. And they evolved it into they took a ping pong table and they basically lowered it down, and they were trying to use badminton stuff and it wasn't working right. So that's when they modified this and they turned it into what you guys now use as pickleball. And somewhere in there, I believe they set up different balls and they settled on basically a wiffle ball because it was about the right size, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and so these are the three guys. They're from Seattle, I believe. I'd have to go back and fact check that. That's the actual photo of those three guys. And clearly it took off. And so now it's becoming extremely popular. I guess, I don't know, it's like anything. It took, what, I don't know, 40, 50 years before it became cool. Hopefully when I'm 50, I'm cool again. All right, cool. So then I started pulling literature on it. What could I find? Content. I thought you guys should find this interesting. Pickleballers make up 1/3, and the average pickleball player, if you didn't think you made it in life, I just prove it. The average pickleball player has an income of $100,000 annually. So I can smell it in the room. There you go. I know you all make $100,000 a year, and you can obviously see a great source there. Forbes magazine has it all figured out. No, they actually cited it from, I forget what website that pulled from. I had to go look up the website because I couldn't quite figure out what that meant. I got a kick out of that, so I threw it on there. So pickleball injuries, right? In 2019, November 30th, there was an article published, Pickleball-related injuries treated in the emergency department. So they started pulling content on this. Patients 50 years and older accounted for 90% of those. 50% were male. And most of those occurred in a rec facility. So, Paul, I hope you got your liability insurance. It definitely seems targeted. They broke it down a little bit. Sprains, 28.7%. Fractures, 27.7%. Lower extremity, 32%. Upper extremity, 25%. And all of those, up to 88%, were treated in the ER and sent home, so nobody died. Maybe the other 12 died. I have no idea. But nonetheless, they pulled a lot of data from that study, and that kind of gave me some insight. Okay, I got to know what I'm preventing. You can make some assumptions, but at least we have some data on what we're preventing. Now, non-fatal senior pickleball injuries and tennis-related injuries treated in the United States, 2010 to 2019, this got published in 2021. 85% of those injury-related cases were 60 years of age and older. So you start to see a little bit of a pattern there, so we can start to make more sense of how we should manage it, what we should do with these things. Among those 60 years and older, cardiovascular events accounted for 11%, which kind of makes sense in general once I show you a slide here in a second. Then obviously slip, trip, fall, dives, those all make sense. I don't know if you guys dive for balls. I'm sure some people do a little bit, but sprains, strains, fractions, contusions. So there you go. Nonetheless, maybe just don't dive for the ball. So, but the leading obviously were the basic ones that you can imagine you're dealing with. Senior males were 3.5 times more likely, so more aggressive, more get after it. I don't know, take your pick there. Compared to men, and 9 times more likely to suffer a wrist fracture. So the women. I'm guessing that has to do with women being more susceptible to fractures because osteoporosis and osteopenia. We know that's more common in the female gender. So that's my prediction on that. The increase in pickleball injuries is almost entirely derived from the category of age group there. And I think, I won't show it, that's okay, we'll just keep moving along. They had different graphs, and you can see 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and then when it hit that 60 to 80 group, it like just shot up in a curve. So I do have the link there. I'm more than happy to send anybody the link. I just thought it'd be interesting to show, but you guys kind of get the idea there. Pickleball injury considerations in an increasingly popular sport. So this doctor, he's a DO, Dr. Greiner, he wrote an article that had some citations in there, kind of mentioned that we really haven't seen a lot of this and how we're going to manage it. Acute traumatic injuries in pickleball can result from, as he mentioned, falls secondary to sudden turning, pivoting movement. So that's what pickleball looks like. You're planting, you're cutting, sudden movements and turns. The Achilles tendon was another spot that he cited, and the Achilles tendon is obviously in the back of the heel. That's where the calf muscle inserts. He mentioned a lot of strains presented along with that tendon. He also mentioned hamstring, quadricep, hip flexor, adductors, which is on the inside of the leg, and then that calf muscle, which is where the Achilles tendon originates from. For the upper extremity, we talked about wrist as a common site, because if we land and fall out, we're probably getting some of that, and we're probably also getting some sort of tennis elbow, golfer's elbow from repetitive wrist movements. And as I mentioned, that fallen and outstretched hand is really one of the most common ones. We have a couple called Colles fracture, and I forget what the other fracture is called, but depending on which way you land with your wrist. So there's your tennis elbow. Plantar fasciitis in the foot, okay, bottom of the foot. Lumbar strains, as well as shoulder injuries. Pickleball is predominantly an overhand play, but some underhand stuff obviously is occurring. I know when I play, I do a lot of underhand. I don't do a whole lot of overhand, so I'm not sure why you cited that, but you can obviously see a little bit of risk with that. So what's the solution for all this? The solution is, don't come see me. Okay, that's the solution. So don't think too much about it. After all the damaging things, we can pretty much just say be tough. Don't get injured. If you do get injured, just be tougher. I know. I tried really hard to find something hardcore there. Hopefully you guys got a kick out of that. So let's review and look at it. What are the recommendations that are out there? There's not a whole lot of recommendations out there for pickleball. Warm-up exercises, stretches, emphasize the importance of protective eyewear. I don't know if people, I've never seen anybody wear eyewear with that. Okay. Then I'm guessing prescription glasses maybe or something with that. I think you'd have to get a ball hammered at you pretty good to have that happen. But athletic shoes, I'm assuming most people have sorted that out. Ankle braces, options for wrist bracing. If you fall at it, can kind of brace the wrist so you don't land on it hurt. But there's not a lot of published references on that. So it's kind of take what you know, take the background, certifications, education, and then kind of mold it into something. And I couldn't find a whole lot out there. There's some stuff out there. People have some videos and some photos, but I tried to summarize it for you. And so kind of on your own out there, trying to figure out what to do with it. You try to always have some data backing to make that more simplistic and more functional. But here we go. So I tried to break it down into those categories. I do think there's at least somewhat of a risk of cardiovascular with that. And you should always discuss with your physician. Most people generally do get a yearly checkup with their doctor. I find that the youth sometimes struggle with that. But I think most people over 35 to 40 typically go see the doctor once a year. You got to do your general stuff. So bring that up, have those conversations. And then musculoskeletal-wise with that, severe osteoarthritis, they don't really recommend that. But that makes sense to say, hey, don't recommend that. But I don't know. Arthritis can be kind of a normal finding as we get a little bit older with time. And obviously you have the hard surface and the landing and the impact and the sudden stepping. So it kind of makes sense they would recommend that. This was kind of cool. Brigham and Women's Health Hospital put an Apple Watch on them, and they checked tennis and pickleball, I believe. But this was the pickleball one. That's a pretty reasonably high pickleball rate. And you want to do 220 minus your age is kind of what they typically recommend for a target heart rate zone. We'll look at that here in a minute. But you're looking at like 70 to 110, 115 as your target heart rate. And so when you start getting into the average 90 plus or minus, 47 beats per minute, it starts to bring up reasonable concerns for cardiovascular, just something to monitor and check. So we'll talk about all that here in a minute as well. The American College of Sports Medicine has made this bulletproof. So if I was talking to somebody who's never done that, you can use a basic triage list when you should get a recommendation, when you shouldn't, to go see a doctor. And you can start to follow some things there. Okay, cardiovascular disease, renal disease. Yes, go get medical clearance. No, keep on going down. You can do light, moderate intensity exercise. We'll talk about what that means a little bit here in a moment as well. And you can kind of go down, and even breaks it down even further. It'll kind of give you that little tiered out diagram of when you should be seeking help. But once again, I think most of us, probably 35, 40, are going to the doctor. And so that's their recommendation as whether you should be getting screened, how hard you should be exercising. But honestly, that's a pretty high heart rate. You're probably giving some physical exertion. So it's great because you're getting that cardiovascular strain. But if you're a new person comes on and they're like, I haven't been to the doctor in 20 years, you might say, hey, Dan spoke, and I think maybe it's good to just go get screened a little bit before you start to play. So be as active as possible before you start to play. So if you've never played before, try to have some sort of seasoning with it. Watch the volume. I think there was no volume recommendation on that, but I think it's like anything. If you haven't done a lot of it, maybe wean into it a little bit. A couple games here, a couple games there versus, how many games do you guys play in an hour? 3, 4, 5, 6? Somebody can hold a number up if they don't want to say anything out loud, but.
We play for like 2 hours.
Right. So new guys shouldn't play for 4 hours. So, I mean, maybe they're in good shape, but you see what I'm saying? All of a sudden you're running all these elbows, strains, sprains, that type of thing. I would recommend light cardiovascular effort 3 to 4 times a week. Obviously, my subclause there, go to see the doctor first. Light daily stretching, stretching 3 to 4 times a week at a minimum, and then some light strengthening 2 times a week per muscle group, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. So how much is too much? I don't know. But I know that if you're participating in an activity and you're giving 4 to 5 out of 10 effort, you're in that moderate effort window, and that's going to kind of take care of itself. So if you're not conditioned for something and you're giving that effort at 4 or 5 out of 10, you're going to get tired. This person may be giving 4 out of 5 effort, but they're going to last 2 hours and you only may last 20 minutes. And so kind of feel that fatigue and then shut down and give yourself 3 days of rest. Nothing's changed, over the last 50 years. We know that if you do a lot and you have muscle soreness, you want to have a couple of days to recover. And once those couple of days of recovery came around, now you know how your body's going to respond. So I don't know if you got groups Monday through Friday, but if they say, "Oh, I'm ready to go back Tuesday again," hey, maybe take a couple of days and see how you feel. Okay, 3 days went by, now you're good to go. And my general rule of thumb, which you'll find in literature generically with rehabbing patients, if you're bumping more than 20% every time, you're just asking for it. So that kind of the 20% window. So if you played, 20 minutes and then your 20% window of that, then you're just slowly piecing it together and going up and up and up and up. However you want to monitor it, games, time spent, but that's just a generic rule. And then overall, just listen to your body. I think most people know what their bodies say about it and just kind of respond. I'm sure, and I'm getting the tip of the iceberg there, and I'm only 36. I ran track in college, and I feel it, but I can't even imagine what. So, okay, here's your CDC recommendation, right? American College of Sports Medicine and the Cardiovascular Disease Group, they've known this forever. 150 minutes a week. The kicker is you want to be in your target heart rate zone with that. So a couple times a week for strength training, 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise a week is your recommended. Walking, cycling, pickleball clearly falls into that if you're getting after it, and your heart rate stays that high, you can utilize that as your cardiovascular exercise. But if you're trying to get into it, maybe go out walking here and there to get your body acclimated to some sort of load. So I'm going to come in and try to give some stretching. Like I said, stretching daily. I'll give you basic ones here, and then I have a nice list. I printed some off. I'm more than happy to get as many printouts as you want. I brought 10 because I wasn't sure who would want stuff, who wouldn't. Don't feel like we got to run for them at the end. I'll drop them off at your house if I need to. Come by the clinic. I make stuff. Anybody who knows me at Catalyst, I make stuff easy. You need me to drop paperwork off? I'll do it. Need me to come by your house? I'll do it. I literally helped a guy fill out paperwork in his kitchen one night because he was stressed out by it. So, calf stretching, that makes sense. Okay, I like to say 15 to 60 seconds. The longer the hold, the better. Anything over a minute is probably excessive. Okay, low back stretch. You could hold it, or you could do some repetition, back and forth, movement-based stretches. Okay, I do want to say static stretching can impact performance. That might sound silly in a room right now with pickleball, but if we take an elite Olympian and we do static stretching, it's going to impact their performance a little bit. So sometimes we'll do dynamic stretching. So that's what repetitive movement would be with a low back, and I'll show you some images. Neck stretching. I don't think it's unreasonable to throw the neck out of there. Okay, throw the neck, move the neck, because I'm sure somebody's woke up stiff with a neck. I guarantee it going after a ball. If that hadn't happened, I'd be impressed. Shoulder stretching. I'll show a couple of shoulder stretches. There's so many we could pick. I tried to pick a safe one that shouldn't cause trouble with people. Trunk rotations for the back. You could hold, or you could do repetitions. Strengthening 2 days a week. Our goal is to improve muscle mass. I know it sounds kind of silly, but we can generate muscle mass at any age. And so we can do it safely and logically without excessively lifting hard. And a lot of times that helps you feel better, and it actually improves your balance, because our body reacts with balance, what we see, what our ears tell us, how quickly our brain reacts to our muscles. And if we strengthen our muscles, the neuromuscular adaptation is actually better, so we react quicker. So we treat fall risk patients. We actually train a lot of strength training. There's a reason why a football player can do what they can do and everyone else can't, because they have that adaptive ability because they've been squatting for months and months and months. So jumping up in the air to catch a ball is just part of the process. I like to recommend 2 to 3 days a week. Get tired in 15 reps, 15 to 20 reps. That's it. Simple. Say, Dan, I don't know how much weight I should do. Don't hurt. Don't go excessively heavy. Get tired in 15 to 20 reps. We have so much science behind that. It's crazy. We've known this since the 50s and 60s. If you're getting tired in 15 to 20 reps, especially in an osteoarthritic age group, we know that we have a healthy load. And if you do that twice a week, you're going to get stronger on accident. It's going to happen. So light to moderate load, 4 to 5 out of 10 effort, all that translates into getting tired in 15 to 20 reps. And you may have to learn what that feels like, but you'll get there, and it's so simple. It's crazy. It doesn't matter what lift you pick. You're there, okay? Same thing with legs. That's my second son. Gosh, I almost said third son, but he's bigger than that now. They all look the same. Squats. We'll talk about the squats because it's a little bit of a irritating exercise. Toe raises, step up, step downs. Utilize your steps. I'm going through literature in my mind that has the best muscle activation for the hips and knees, and I'm trying to give you the most bang for your buck with safe exercises. Back to rule 1, don't hurt, okay? Arms, bicep curls, arm raises. Stop at shoulder height, okay? Don't reach overhead. That is my youngest son. He's a pistol. He's a piece of work, yeah. Anybody want to babysit some night, you can have him. And grip strength, right? So you're holding a paddle. I tried to make this thing so basic and straightforward. So grip strength, right? Core strength. A bridging exercise is a great exercise. Make sure you don't hurt your back. You don't have to go super high. That exercise is so documented in literature. It hits everything. Front of the leg, back of the leg, core, trunk, hips. It does a nice job of hitting everything. It's just such a good, solid, safe exercise. A counter plank, I'll show you what that looks like. That's another safe, loaded exercise. Rubber band chops, lifts, rotations. All those are simple ones. I'll show you what those look like. We talked about the cardiovascular, and I just gave you a window, 80 to 120 beats per minute. If you have a watch, you can look down. That's likely your generic target heart rate. You can type in target heart rate calculator on the internet, punch in your age, and it'll give you whatever you want. So it's super easy to follow, but you want to be in that for a minimum of 10 minutes to get that benefit. Shouldn't throw out balance stuff because I think we do. We balance when we play pickleball. We land, we hold stable. Narrow stance, both feet together. Tandem stance, which is feet back to back. And then all the way to a single leg balance. 1 minute, 10 seconds, 3 minutes. You're just trying to promote strain and stress through that uncomfortable position. Please be safe. Do it where you have a handhold in front of a counter, so on and so forth. But my point of throwing that on there is isolate a little bit of balance work. And then before you start, I tried to put on a little pregame regimen on there that I thought wasn't excessive, but just to give you some basic, hey, what should I do before I go exercise? Remember, we're guessing here. We're using basic biophysiological, musculoskeletal principles, strengthening, stretching, and trying to give you something to start with. And this will be on that piece of paper. So I got legs, I got hips, I got shoulders, I got neck, I got back, I got arms, I got wrists. So you can kind of see all those little categories in there, and nothing fancy. I think if you pulled 100 therapists, they'd probably come up with the majority of this. Somebody be different, but and I think probably walking a little bit isn't an unreasonable way to get your heart rate up. So you start right at the bottom of that heart rate window, because we do know performance-wise, if you're just starting bottom barrel, you're going to get tired quicker. But if you're trained and you get right below that heart rate, then when you go to the activity, you don't have the shock in your system. And I realize we're probably not going intense, super crazy, but I think it's something to consider. So overall, make these things enjoyable. Have fun with them. Make them useful for yourself. Don't force yourself. See your doctor if needed. Stretch 15 to 60 second holds. Okay, strengthening a couple days a week, and then get that cardiovascular benefit 3 to 5 days a week. And I will go through the exercises here, but I always like to throw out a thank you because I didn't know what small town meant until I moved to Great Bend and I opened that clinic. And the only reason I'm there is because of the community. So thank you. I appreciate that. And that's the whole gang there on the right. Yeah, she's the house favorite. I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I do. So, all right, let's look at that exercise list because I think that's what everybody really wants to probably see. So you can have a nice taste of what that is. And anybody can have access to this. So I put the same kind of summary of stuff up there, right? Here's what you should aim for. Here's what you should try to do. Strengthening, stretching, cardiovascular, balance, and stability. I gave you some basic guidelines there. None of this bulletproof. I threw my little disclaimer at the bottom so you can't sue me, right? And for those that are tech savvy, because I put a link on there that goes to the website, but if you just hold your phone camera up over there and take a photo of that QR code in your packet, It'll take you straight to the American College of Sports Medicine guidelines, and it's really user-friendly. I mean, they did a nice job. You click, hey, what about strengthening? I forgot what Dan said. Oh, cool, little paragraph. They make it user-friendly. Read about it. Oh, what about stretching? And they'll give you little guidelines in there. So I wanted you to have access to that because I know you can't click a PDF or a piece of paper when it's in front of you. Strengthening. So row, a basic row. Taking a rubber band, pulling straight back, squeezing the shoulder blades together. The photos are the exercise. I didn't put a whole lot of description in there because I didn't want to water it down. I'm more than happy to I would go through any of this with anybody anytime they want. But look at the photo is pretty true. Okay? If you're mirroring the photo, you're probably really close. Shoulder flexion. We said to shoulder height, but you could go higher. With this one, I do see people go high up, and sometimes they'll get a little shoulder ache. Back to rule number 1, don't hurt. If it hurts, you're probably doing too much weight, doing too much motion, or doing too many reps. You throw one of those 3 out, you've probably cured it, and then you can go keep on going, okay? You could use a weight. Great question. I heard somebody ask about how much weight should I use. Back to the basic rule. I get tired in 15 to 20 reps, right? So one person may need a 10-pound weight. The other person may need a 2-pound weight. Somebody may need no weight at all. So as long as you follow the guideline 4 to 5 out of 10 effort, you're good. And your 15 to 20 repetitions of fatigue, you're good. So it's bulletproof. You see I'm backpedaling on that. And you're like, Dan didn't tell me a weight. I don't know what to do. Wall push-up, such a nice exercise. Wrist, shoulders, elbow, shoulder blades, and it's safe. I like to recommend people keep their elbows down because if you keep your elbows down, it typically takes pain away. The more you start to wing out, the more pressure you get. Sometimes make you more sore. But if it hurts, do less motion. Don't go as deep. Do it shallow. But this is nice because it puts load through the arm. What happens when you land? You put load through your arm. So if you start doing some subtle training of that, hopefully if that happens, you at least have some sort of, hey, at least I did something to preload my arm a little bit. Rubber band, external rotations on the shoulder, rotator cuff 101. Every therapist in the country gives this for a rotator cuff exercise. You can do one arm at a time. I try to do 2 so you're not wasting your time one side to one side. Okay, pull it out. I like to do a little shoulder blade squeeze back there, but there you are. So all the backhand stuff, that's rotator cuff. Forward, rotator cuff. Overhead, rotator cuff. We already gave that exercise up there reaching up. This hits the supraspinatus muscle a lot of people will tear. These hit your lower rotator cuff muscles. This one's a little bit unique. A lot of people haven't seen this. I like it for 2 reasons. 1, it puts load through your shoulder, and 2, it strengthens a muscle called the serratus anterior. That muscle helps your shoulder blade swing up when you reach overhead. If that shoulder blade doesn't swing up, you start to get rotator cuff impingement. Okay, so what you do is you keep your arms locked and you shove your shoulder forward. So if I was on my back on a table, I'd press up, pause for 2 to 3 seconds, back down. So you can do that on a counter. Body weight, you don't even need anything. You can do it from a push-up position. You could do dumbbells on your back, but I just like that because it's super safe. Okay? Once again, if it hurts, stop. Sometimes I get a little sore on people. Biceps and triceps, super easy to do. I wanted to be thorough, so I threw it in there. Okay? The one thing I'll say about triceps is just keep your arms at your side. A lot of times I see a lot of this, which is fine. That's not a bad exercise, but if you want to isolate the muscle in the back of your arm, just keep your arm at your side, which I tried to illustrate there a little bit. Bicep curl, that's like one of the oldest lifts ever, so most people feel comfortable with that. I like a palm up. You could do a palm down or a palm neutral. You can do either one. There's nothing wrong with any one of those. Wrist strengthening, wrist curls, right? That's big on that. So tennis elbow, what's one of the main ways we treat tennis elbow? We load the muscles a little bit and strength train them in the clinic. In and out. That'd be one that maybe got lost in translation. So just in and out. I showed 2 photos there going both ways. Take a hammer. Hammer does the same thing. You don't have to have 1-pound weights. Check your pantry for a can of soup. Seriously, not joking. I recommend this stuff all the time. You're just turning back and forth. Those little muscles in there, that's what you're doing. You're doing a lot of those hitting ones. So nothing fancy. Taking basic anatomy, basic biophysiological principles, and trying to translate them into uncharted territory so you guys have something you can utilize if you want. We already said gripping, okay? A little bit of a caveat here, 10 to 15 reps there. I don't know, hold it 10 seconds, hold it 30 seconds. Maybe you're a 1.5-minute guy, I don't know. Get fatigued, and then, if you do 20 and you're not tired, you probably should squeeze longer and hold longer, Kind of makes sense. Back to that same bulletproof principle, 15 to 20 reps, you're there. Core exercises. Okay, we do lots of trunk when we're planting and pivoting and twisting. Just lift your arm up in a nice core plank position. You're going to feel it activate. Bridge one, which I already showed you. I just put it on your list for you. Throw a little rubber band in the door and turn. Stomach tight and turn. You're doing lots of rotating. There's other functional movement patterns. Core down with a chop. Core lift up. 2 different rotational patterns and the middle rotational pattern. So all those are going to hit almost all your back muscles, core muscles. Somebody would probably argue that, but that hits almost all of them. Lower body, I put a little rubber band around my ankles. Nice one to hit the hips real easy. That's just a side step. We're just stepping sideways. Okay? Even if you're doing it wrong, you're still doing something. This one's got a lot of cueing with it, but I wanted to show a basic one there. Squatting, the only caveat here is I'd say chest up, hips back. Notice my knees aren't all the way forward. If your knees are hurting, you're probably dipping your knees too far forward. And if you notice me from the side, my hips aren't even bending. So the first thing I see with weak hips is people kind of go like this, and I say stick your rear end back like you're going to sit in a chair, and all of a sudden you're in this backward position. Now I did it in an open area because I didn't want my dirty kitchen in the background. But you can grab onto your kitchen sink, sit back. Same thing. In the clinic, I have people grab onto the leg press, cable machine, hold onto TRX straps, and we sit them back to practice proper squat technique. So they're working all the muscles in their leg without aggravation. And don't go super deep. Just go a short amount. Remember, if it's hurting, less reps, less load, less range of motion. So just don't go as far. Okay? So I put half squat or quarter squat, step up. Just step up and down the step repeatedly for 15 times. You'll get tired. And the step up is one of the best hip activation exercises for the muscles on the side of the hip and the back of the hip. We have literature showing this. I give those in the clinic all the time. Great exercise to load. Okay, and all you need is body weight. I guarantee it. Calf raise is super easy. Toe raise, I am holding onto the wall in the background. If you can do it freestanding, that's okay, but grab the wall, hold on to it. Notice I'm just going through every kind of part of the body, and I tried to pick basic, holistic exercises to make it simple. Stretching. Cross arm. The only thing I want to point out here is don't have a lot of times I'll see this. Palm up. When you put palm in, it takes your shoulder and rotator cuff and pinches it. Okay, and you're going to get sore. If you do palm up, it opens the shoulder joint up. This is probably one of the most poorly demonstrated stretches on the face of the earth, I feel like. Thumb up, because this is already going to jam your shoulder joint up. It's already not a good stretch, but it's hard to stretch that spot. And so for what you guys do, I think this is one of the better ones. But just have palm up. And I illustrated that there. You don't have to remember anything. Just look at the photo. Remember, mirror the photo. Kind of look in the mirror, look down. Oh, and then fix what you see. Wrist stretch up and down. We talked about the wrist muscles getting sore. Both individual stretches. How long do we hold? 15 to 60 seconds. The longer you hold, the more effective the stretch you're going to get. Calf stretching. I showed a couple different ways. Look at the back leg on this photo. One is straight, one is bent. Okay, it's stretching 2 different parts of your lower leg. Now look at the front leg. One is forward, one is slightly bent. I didn't bend enough to make it obvious, but same concept, different position. Just stretching different parts of your ankle. Hamstring stretch 101. Lean forward. Try to sit up as tall as you can versus slouching and lean forward and stretch the back of your leg. Hip stretch. You guys have all done that. Quad stretch. This one may be tough for some people, but if you just throw your foot on the chair behind you and just lean forward, you can always get a decent stretch there. Because sometimes it's hard to grab the back of the knee. People have total knees. People have stiff, swollen knees. You can cheat that by just throwing your foot up on that, okay? Throw that foot up back there. Or you can take a little strap and grab your leg. I put ankle alphabet on there. Draw the letters of the alphabet. That's going to hit every angle of the ankle. I didn't put a photo for that because it'd be like my foot just sitting there doing nothing. But draw the letters of the alphabet out with your toe. If you sprain your ankle, everybody says, do the ankle alphabet. There you go. It's just loosening it up. All right? Back, rotations, forward bending, backwards bending, sideways bending. I just went the different directions of the back. That's all I did. You could do repetitions or you could hold it. I think if you held that for 60 seconds, you'd get tired. So I'd probably just do a little bit more mobility there. Okay? I said times 10 without hold. If you want to hold, you can. You wouldn't be wrong. Neck, forward, backwards, side bends, rotates. Same thing. Just rotating, side bending, all those. Okay, there's that link for the cardiovascular recommendations. I copy and pasted a chart on here so you can kind of look. I was close. 75 to 128 beats per minute is your target heart rate zone, which means your max heart rate zone is up around 150. So you're probably getting that during pickleball. So I wanted you to think back again, cardiovascular benefit. If you feel like you're having some issues, maybe the extra couple days you go out and walk, get your heart rate up a little bit, or whatever you enjoy doing just to kind of get to that range, because we talked about balance, flexibility, strengthening, cardiovascular. Balance and stability, I already showed you these. Narrow stance, tandem stance, single leg stance. You can do eyes open, eyes closed to make it more difficult. You could turn your head back and forth. Any of those things are going to make it more challenging. Everybody's different. Sometimes I have people stand on a foam pad to make it wobbly underneath them. Stand on a pillow. Please be safe. Don't fall. Make it work for you. All right, so I think people are going to buy into this a lot. So what should I do right before I play? I tried to get a little bit of a routine there. Squats times 15. Walk 5 to 10 minutes to get your heart rate up a little bit. Arm circles forward or backwards. I think everybody in PE ever did that, but I don't think anything's changed with that. Forward, backwards. I drew the arrow one direction just because it looked like I was holding my arms. Wall push-up. Find the steps. Go up and down one flight of stairs. Ankles, knees, hips, hits everything, okay? Neck back circuit, side bending, rotations, all those different ones. You go through your full motion. Calf raises, that get the calf going. Walking on heels, walking on toes. I think I showed a photo of that. I like that. It just gets everything kind of loaded and isolated a little bit and kind of gets your ankle through full motion. Maybe hold on along the wall while you do it. Knee lifts, come up as much as you can, because I do think when you go to step, you're lifting that hip through there. I don't know if anybody's ever had a hip thing on the front. Little hip flexor injury stinks. So little hip lift, and there you go. I could have added so much more. I could have taken away so much more. I tried to give basics. I tried to give a whole rounded snapshot that is beyond flawed on multiple levels, but it gives you a decent look at what that may be. I think you could get 100 different opinions. You're going to get 100 different examples. I think that's doable for you guys. I think at least there's a set of things you can look for and grasp at. Do what's right for you. Find the things that are helpful. And hopefully you find that you never have to come see me. Last I checked, I was the only clinic open in town. Nobody else was open. So if something happens, you got to call me. So super fortunate to be full, blessed. Thank you guys for letting me come and talk. Hopefully you found that pseudo entertaining and helpful.